Hello everyone, my name is Binder Shrestha. I work for Waters. In next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about how can we, Waters as a vendor, support your grant application to get funding for your instrument such as a mass spec. Before I dive into the specifics of grant support, Waters supports academic customers in many ways, from providing preferred pricing to giving access to technology earlier and doing scientific collaborations, organizing various scientific meetings, to even giving a few award researches through different organizations. Let's talk about how we as Water can support the grant application process. Getting grant is a long process that may take months of preparation to months of waiting to hear back from the funding agency. To get started first, first determine what capabilities are needed uh, for your lab or for your institution, and roughly decide what type of instrument you would need. And then decide and talk about what is the funding mechanism. Are you applying for a private foundation grant or for a shared instrument grant such as NIH S10 or NSF MRI? See if you're eligible to apply for those grants and what are the deadlines and procedures. Call and email and text, either one of them, your local Waters rep, and discuss with them on evaluating the right instrument. Plan and collaborate with us Waters to get a preliminary demo data to support your grant application. Get like a more technical justification details as needed from the Waters team. And then finally, write, get feedback, recheck, and submit internally, and then to funding agency, and the longest process to wait. So how can we support grant application for an instrument? The most important things is we can provide compelling demo data for your project. We can provide support documentation and information, also training and services in some cases, bridge financing. First thing first, we can give the basics, which means a quote with the selected instrument configuration, description of the instrument, why this model, uh, why the requested features, and the comparison with the of performance with other similar instrument on the market. In addition to the basic, we also provide educational activities such as annual grant writing workshop, annual early career summits, application checklist, timelines, and the biggest of them are one-to-one meetings to support your grant application. So one of the things we can provide you is technical knowledge. It includes like a more detailed product description, features, specs, guides. We can provide you why this technology tailored to your grant. We can provide you technical justification, for example, why ion mobility for imaging, lipids for mass spec, and so forth. We can give you comparison with the similar instrumentation on the market, and as well as that we can give you like kind of confidential technical review for your grant application. And in addition to all of that, we obviously can give you more scientific reference for the instrumentation or your application. Training is often required component in many grant applications to show who will train the new users, and who will train the expanding user base. Waters can provide training in many ways, from self-paced e-learning modules to completely customized on-site training with application expert, or a small like 3 to 5 people class tailored to user needs in Waters Lab. While you're waiting for your grant application to process, in some cases we can provide bridge financing or lease or short-term rental to validate the new technology and for your lab to get started sooner. And for that we do provide bridge financing. This is an example of NIH S10 grant. For example, for introduction, Waters can provide the basics, as I said, codes, description, features, references. For justification need work, uh, we can explain how the instrument will enhance the capability beyond what you have. This may include comparison to other instrument and demo data. For technical expertise, Waters usually provide professional training with purchase of new instruments such as mass spec. For research project section, water scientists can help in discussion of what new proposed instrument capabilities can do for existing projects that you have. Uh, for administration, Waters can provide estimated AUT or accessible user time for instrument based on historical lab data, schedule maintenance such as calibration, cleaning, PM, and so forth. And for the institutional commitment work with us, Waters, to organize case building activity, we often do things like symposium to build a case for new instrument capabilities, and we do things like collaboration to get like a more commitment. And finally, we can provide letter support and references if you need, and also if you need, we can review your application plan. Let's talk more about demo. The first step in demo is defining the objective. It's a demo, it's not a full research study, so we need to select a handful of experiments that can showcase the true benefit of their instrument or this tool for your research or your project. So start with, discussing the goal of demo. It's always good to discuss if you have any prior result because that might help us define the experiment a little bit better. Other things to discuss will be logistics, timeline, sample shipment, sample. And for the sample prep, it depends on each project and basically what's practical, right? Depending on the experiment. Sometime you may need to do all the prep, and sometime we may do the prep. For example, for moldy, if you don't have the matrix sprayer, we can do the sprayer spraying for the matrix since we have the sprayer. The next step will be the data acquisition, which will be done by one of the water scientists. And finally, it will be for us to present the demo data and showcase the features of the instrument and discuss if there is any next steps needed. Plan early with Water's demo team to get preliminary data. Demo data can showcase the benefit of the instrument for your project. From initial discussions with water sales, selecting, preparing samples, and acquiring data may take some time. Depending on instrument configuration, availability, and the complexity of the project, it may take up to 8 weeks or so. So my suggestion is to prepare early. Here is how timeline for NIH S10 grant demo will look like. First, it will be defining capability needed for your lab and institution. Talking about does the same capability is available at your institution or other institution nearby that you can access. Then other thing will be the contact vendor, hopefully Waters, to assess the technology. Identify 3+ NIH funded user, typically 6 to 10 at least, and the project. Select the project, represent sample that you want to do demo of. Obtain any institutional approval, and then finally discuss the required demo data with the Waters after getting the demo, and then write and review and submit. So the take-home message is PI is the driving force. Set aside some time to work with your major users, a vendor, hopefully Waters, and write. Um, It's a team effort, needs a lot of coordination. You need to give like a timeline, due dates to your collaborator, especially if it's a shared instrumentation grant, and also need to set up a timeline for your vendor, such as water. Other important thing is to check institutional deadline and commitment. You know what kind of space or commitment they have available for you. Uh, Other very important thing is engage with your vendor, hopefully Waters. Utilize us. Utilize our grant preparation support for technical management. Whatever we can provide. Obtain preliminary demo data from vendor, and obtain a good preliminary demo data by designing the experiment early on with the vendor. Uh, and finally, start early, get feedback from your colleagues, your vendor, check for typos and grammar. And if it's not successful this grant cycle, there's always a next resubmit. And thank you very much for listening to me.